Good God, I love this gun. The Winchester Model 1885 entered production in, surprisingly, 1885, having been designed by Sir Lord God John Moses Browning. At the time, Winchester was famed for their repeaters, and the 1885 was designed to challenge the single-shot designs of Savage, Remington and other rifle manufacturers. The falling block action was incredibly robust, so much so that the Winchester Company used these rifles to test fire new calibers, and the 1885 was described by Major Ned Roberts as the best single-shot rifle ever produced. The rifle was immensely popular among target shooters in America, and although it saw no military service, is still produced to this day. In-game, the Winchester is a god-tier rifle. It does 235 damage per shot, enough to kill any enemy with one shot anywhere on the body with 100% consistency. Its effective range and muzzle velocity are surprisingly poor, but you don't notice due to the insane damage. Although single shot, its fire rate is, according to the in-game statistics, substantially higher than both the Kar98K and also the Springfield, being almost on par with the SREM, but this seems to me at least to be somewhat untrue. Recoil control is fairly woeful, but it literally doesn't matter as follow-up shots are physically impossible with this gun. Spread accuracy is the worst in its class, which is an issue, as it makes using this thing like a shotgun somewhat difficult, which is something you could kind of build it to do. Aim down sights time is fairly poor, as is equip time and audible range, with this thing being the second loudest gun in the game behind the RSC. Magazine capacity is 1 round, so if you miss, you're ruined. I must say that the 1885 really puts the win in Winchester. This thing may suck at almost everything, but slap the extended barrel on this thing, you automatically have perhaps the best rifle in the game. The ability to shoot anyone, anywhere on the body and still have a guaranteed kill, even if it's a collateral through a box or something, is very overpowered. And honestly, it's just fun. Additionally, stats related to recoil literally don't matter at all, which gives you an enormous amount of freedom when you choose attachments. Arguably, this thing's biggest drawbacks are having to de-scope after every shot, which means you have to reset your aim constantly, which severely limits this thing's rate of fire, especially in Authentic. And also the fact that it can't take a bayonet, which is a crying shame, because that would really complement the shotgun sort of class that you could quite easily build. If you haven't bought this DLC, I urge you to, as I can pretty much guarantee this will be the DLC that gives you the most bang for your buck, along with the Delisle, for this weapon alone. Now we are going to go through 2 class setups I have for the Winchester, the first of which is a high fire rate build. I use the ZF39 scope for better range and variety of zoom levels. I prefer the M84 scope to the ZF39, but despite being an American gun, the Winchester uses a mix of Allied and German scopes, which doesn't include many of the better Allied scopes. This is strange, but probably just because the German scopes are criminally underused, as every rifle added as DLC so far has been either British or American. I also use the extended marksman barrel, which increases range, muzzle velocity and damage, but decreases stability and mobility. I don't use a muzzle, but I do take the 38-55 cowboy rounds, which decrease my muzzle velocity and damage, but improve my mobility, quietens the gun, and crucially increases my overall fire rate. I use bullet loops on my stock as they improve my overall fire rate, although they do decrease stability. I use the lightened assembly, which further reduces damage and range, but increases overall fire rate to biblical levels. Finally, the light elm construction increases my sprint movement speed, whilst negatively impacting recoil, which literally couldn't matter less. This setup works very well, as the extended marksman barrel counters the damage decrease of the lightened assembly and the 38-55 rounds, which means that this thing is still a one-shot kill on any part of enemy at any range, which is ridiculous, especially seeing as the fire rate is so high. This setup works incredibly well at dealing with large groups of enemies, as providing you get the reload timings down, this thing's fire rate is substantially faster than that of a Springfield or a Kar 98. It's no slouch at range either, although a tad worse than the base model. Arguably, his biggest drawback in this field is that the ZF-39 has no zeroing option for 400 meters, which is annoying when you're playing on mission 3. Overall, this setup is devilishly effective at almost all ranges, although it would have been nice to see a bayonet on the front of it. My other setup is a long-range build designed for players who sit back and lay waste to people. It's the sort of setup that should be rubbing shoulders with a Kar 98. I use the ZF-39 and extended barrel for the usual reasons, the Mark II boys brake to increase muzzle velocity at the cost of noisiness, the 45-70 high-speed round increases my muzzle velocity, and the wooden pad on my stock improves aim stability, allowing for more precise long-range shooting. The short travel trigger increases fire rate, but unlike the lightened assembly it doesn't negatively impact performance at range, and the laminated beach construction once again improves aim stability. This setup is incredibly effective at range, and a great one to use on authentic, as whilst it isn't quite Springfield levels of game when it comes to range and accuracy, it's still pretty damn good. It's noisy, but it works incredibly well for covering a stealthy player from range when you're playing co-op. Me and my dad pulled this off to great effect when he used a setup very similar to this one and I went round with a Delisle, because not only was he able to take out pretty much everything, he also attracted enemies towards him, which meant I could flank easier and do stealthy stuff and that. And all in all, it just works so well as a proper sniper's rifle, something the regular Winchester is somewhat hard pressed to accomplish. It's very noisy, and will attract basically every Nazi on the map if you even fire it once, but if you take the boys brake off the front, this does somewhat improve your chances. Not that it matters if they come for you anyway, because you will be able to take them all on. Thank you everyone for watching the video. Remember to like, subscribe and comment. It costs you nothing and it's a great way to help out the channel. Stay safe and goodbye.